This is a Guide Your Light network production, creating podcasts with purpose. Hello, I'm Maritza Barone. Welcome to the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. Has there ever been a moment in your life where you heard, read, or were told something that you simply could not unhear? Something that made you stop in your tracks and helped you to see the world differently in some way, a better way. On this podcast, we create those life-changing moments for you through interviews with some of the world's most profound people around the globe. We explore groundbreaking ideas in health and well-being.
What we're really doing is getting to the root cause of your symptoms. And often we find that is an emotional block that we have been carrying around in our body that's become almost crystallized and created a physical symptom.
Relationships.
And for women as well, when I talk about respect, it's called respecting yourself, which is don't overgive. Women will tend to put themselves one down, and then wake up at 40 and go, wait a second, I am woman, I deserve respect.
Personal and professional transformation.
This is true of any skill. You only develop it by doing it. And so, if you don't get out there and just start doing it and being a bit rough around the edges at the beginning, you can't work on your craft. And so it can't turn into something.
Spirituality.
Because I think when we know who we really are, we think we're our name and our body and our form and our hair and our clothes and our skin and but when we know who we really are as infinite beings, we're free.
And so much more. So settle in. This might just be a big day for you where you hear something that changes your life in the most transformative way. We have on this episode one of the OGs, one of the original thought leaders of our time. Dr. John Demartini, who needs little introduction to those of you who are like me and immersed in the world of human transformation and who have watched the film The Secret many times over. Dr. John Demartini's conversation has left me with a true fire in my belly to continue on my purpose path no matter what, and to follow those little breadcrumbs or those little hints or nudges that come our way, those conversations that we listen to or those books that we read that give us hints on what our purpose is and how we can not waver from getting there. We talk a lot today in this episode about delegation. Delegation is a huge part of Dr. John Demartini's life, and he attributes a lot of his success to doing only the tasks that are most on his purpose path, not the tasks that are not. So finding people who will work with you to do the tasks in your life that are taking you away from what that true meaning of your existence is. It was 1 a.m. at his time when he joined me for this conversation. He didn't mind at all talking to me on the podcast at 1 a.m. He was completely lit up, excited about sharing his story, which he'd done thousands and thousands of times over because he's so clear on his vision and his mission in the world in order to help people become the master of their own life and destiny. I shared a quote with him, which he absolutely loved, and he'll be adding onto his website, which is an epic quote that I found some years ago that I now live my life by as well. So I know you're going to enjoy this conversation just as much as I did. There's a little bit of Dr. Martini cheekiness at the end, which we'll definitely leave in for you to enjoy. So make sure you let me know what you think of this episode and keep the conversation going. Thanks and enjoy the chat with Dr. Demartini. Welcome to Things You Can't Unhear, Dr. John Demartini. I'm so pleased to have you here. Tell us where you are joining us from right now.
I'm sailing from the Faroe Islands, north of Scotland and west of Denmark, up towards Iceland. So we're going on an expedition to Iceland, and I'm on my ship. It's where I've been living for 21 years. and we sail around the world. And so that's where I'm sailing right now. We're heading to have an expedition up there.
You certainly do. You talk about living an extraordinary life, and you are walking that talk absolutely. And I must say, it's 1 o'clock in the morning where you are. So you are so committed to what you do. You are here joining me. It's 10 o'clock a.m. for me, and it's 1 a.m. for you. And I thought, I was saying before we hit record, that I got the times wrong, but I didn't. You are here, and you're so committed to sharing your message. I love it.
Well, I love what I do. And so, time is an illusion. According to Einstein's block universe, time is an illusion.
You know what else seems to be an illusion, Dr. Martini? Aging for you. You look like you have not aged a day since you appeared in The Secret when I watched you first. It is amazing. You could literally be side by side and have not changed at all. What is your secret to anti-aging?
That was the secret, I guess. No, I'll be 68 in just a couple months. So 68. So I'm doing pretty good.
You are doing good. You seem very happy. You seem, you're living your purpose path. So I usually ask this question at the end of every interview, but I really feel like it might be a good starting space for you. What is something that you heard in your life, and this could take us right back to the beginning, but something that you heard in your life that you couldn't unhear and that sparked positive change within you, that sparked you to make that difference and live your life in a better way?
Well, there's lots of those.
I thought there might be.
I think one that just popped in my head, I was a bit of a adventurous youth. And when I was 14 years old, I hitchhiked from Houston, Texas to LA and down to the coast to Huntington Beach, California to go surfing, and had my duffel bag and surfboard and headband and sandals and Hawaiian shirt and was hitchhiking. And I got there wasn't a freeway from Houston there all the way. It was partly under construction. And I had to go through downtown El Paso Library, downtown El Paso. And I got confronted by 3 cowboys that were going to give me a bit of a scuffle. And I didn't know what to do. And all I could think of is bark like a dog and act like a growling wolf and everything else to scare them. Because I thought they were going to give me a rough time. And it worked. They backed away and let me go through, because cowboys and surfers didn't get along in those days. And there was a guy standing on a street corner laughing, who just saw what I did. He was just laughing. And he finally came up to me, put his hand on my shoulders, and he said, Sonny, that's the funniest dang thing I've ever seen. He said, you took care of them cowpokes like a pro. Can I buy you a cup of coffee? I said, no, sir, I don't drink coffee. Can I buy you a Coke? So he took me to this malt shop, and we got a Coca-Cola with this, I would say 60-something-year-old guy. Just some guy on the street corner leaning on a lamppost laughing. When I got through with that Coca-Cola, he says, are you done? I said, yes, sir. And he said, then I'd like you to follow me, because I got 2 things I want to teach you. And I was a little bit hesitant about that, because I don't know who this guy was, right? So we walked a couple blocks and over a couple blocks up these steps into the downtown El Paso Library. At the information booth, I left my surfboard and stuff there. And we walked down some steps into this sunken area, and then back up these steps and sat down at a table. He went off to the bookshelves and came back with 2 big books and set them in front of me. And he sat catty corner to me on the corner of the table. He said, young man, there's 2 things I want to teach you. You have to promise me you'll never forget these. And I said, yes, sir. He said, number 1, don't ever judge a book by its cover. He said, because the cover will fool you. The outside of somebody may not be what's inside. So don't ever judge a book by its cover. And then he took my right hand and he said to me, he said, you probably think I'm some guy on the street, but young man, I'm one of the wealthiest men in the world. I have everything that money can buy. I have planes and businesses and cars and homes. I'm extremely wealthy, young man. He says, so don't ever judge a book by a cover. Then he took my hand and he stuck them on top of the 2 books. It was Plato and Aristotle. And he said, young man, you learn how to read, because there's only 2 things they can never take away from you in your life, and that is your love and your wisdom. So you gain the wisdom of love and the love of wisdom, young man, and promise me you'll never forget that. Well, he put those bookshelves on the thing, and it left an imprint on my mind. He led me down to the street where he said, now you go there and you'll head off to California. And don't ever forget what I said. Well, that was 1968. It turned out to be Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes was in El Paso, Texas, doing an El Paso natural gas deal for a brewery he was building. I just happened to run into a character who changed my life. My cufflinks today say love and wisdom on it. So gain the wisdom of love and the love of wisdom, and to realize that there's nothing but love, all else was illusion. And if you gain the wisdom of that, you see past the conscious and unconscious splits that we have in life, our subjective biases, and see something more objective and more meaningful that's deeply profound in impacting our lives. We all want to be loved and appreciated for who we are, and we want to be able to love and appreciate other people. And so he was trying to tell me the two most important things. So that's one that just popped in my head as you asked.
That is probably one of the best things that you can't unhear that we've had on this show. Very powerful. And the fact that you were a teenager then and you've taken this message into your life still today is so, so powerful. It proves so much. And it actually changed your life in so many ways. Books have become your life. Reading, writing has become your life. And you use that message to inspire you rather than going down a pathway of, like many others do, of hitting rock bottom. You were creating change by inspiration, which I absolutely love and we talk about all the time. But I want to know now what reading means to you these days. You've read over 30,000 books. It says it there on your website. You've written 40 self-help books, probably hundreds of other texts. What does reading mean to you and why is it so important?
That's a very lovely question. Thank you. When I was born, I had a speech impediment and I had an arm and leg that was deformed and turned in. And I had to wear braces on my arm and leg from 1.5 to 4 and had to do exercises to strengthen my muscle in my mouth with strings and buttons and things. And by the time I got to 6 years old, I tried to go to elementary school. My first grade teacher started me in a normal reading. I went to remedial reading, and then I had to go to the dunce sitting where you'd sit and face the window with the dunce cap on. And finally, she realized that wasn't working. That wasn't going to make me read. I had dyslexia, and I just didn't seem to make any sense out of words and letters and things. And I wrote backwards. So she had my parents come to the school and she said to my parents, I'm afraid your son's got learning problems. I'm afraid he's never going to be able to read or write. He probably won't communicate very effectively, probably won't go very far in life, probably won't amount to much. But he runs. He likes to run, because when I got out of my braces at 4, all I wanted to do is run. When you've been constrained by braces, you want to run. So she saw me, she says, put him into some sort of sport where he can excel. He's not going to make it in school. So I ended up only making it through elementary school with the help of the smartest kids by asking them questions, which I'm known for today in my questioning. And the kid would say what they got out of the class. And if I heard what they said, I would get enough information to try to pass. And that worked till I was 12. And then at age 12, my parents moved from Houston, Texas to Richmond, Texas. And I didn't have a bunch of smart kids. We lived in a really low socioeconomic area and had to bus to school. And it was a lot of racial issues. No smart kids. So I ended up failing. And I left school when I was 13. So I became a street kid at 13. And all the way to 14. And 14, I decided to hitchhike out to California to go surfing. 15, I made it over to Hawaii. I lived in Hawaii from 15 to 18. I nearly died right before I turned 18. And in the recovery of that, I was led to a health food store and then to a yoga class where I met Paul Bragg. And Paul Bragg, one night, 1 hour, shared a message that inspired me to think that maybe I could overcome my learning problems and someday be intelligent. I never thought I was going to be intelligent. I had to ask the people to read to me. But that night, I had a belief and a vision that I could overcome that. So I set out on an objective to try to overcome that and learn how to read and speak properly. And I flew back to LA, hitchhiked back to Texas, ended up taking a GED, which is high school equivalency test, and miraculously passing this with my eyes closed, guessing with a little statement, I'm a genius and I apply my wisdom that Paul Bragg told me to help me overcome my learning problems. And I passed the test. I had me a high school degree. I tried to go to college and I failed. I just couldn't do it. And I almost gave up on my dream of being a teacher and being intelligent. And my mom came home seeing me crying on the living room floor. And she said, son, what happened? What's wrong? I said, I blew it. I guess I'll never be able to read or write or communicate or mouth thing, never go very far in life. And she said, son, whether you become a great teacher and learn, whether you go back and ride big waves and surf, or you return to the streets, just want to let you know your father and I are going to love you no matter what. When my mom said that, my hand went into a fist I looked up and I saw the vision of me standing in front of 1,000,000 people speaking. And I said to myself, I'm going to master this thing called learning and reading and studying. I'm going to master this thing called teaching. And I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to travel whatever distance. I'm going to pay whatever price to get my service of love across this planet. I'm not going to let any human being, not even myself, stop me now. And I had this determination that was hard to describe. I hugged my mom. I went into my room. I got a Funk and Wagnalls dictionary. If you buy $20 worth of food, you get an extra book or a volume from Funk and Wagnalls. And I decided I was going to memorize that dictionary, 30 words a day. And with the help of my mom, my vocabulary grew. And then months later, my mom said, what do you want for your birthday? I said, I want the greatest teachings, the greatest writings from the greatest minds who ever lived from around the world. She said, sure you don't want a t-shirt? I said, no, Mom. So she got her brother, who was a professor at MIT, who was a physicist and chemist, to send 2 giant 6 by 6 by 6 foot wooden crates on a flatbed truck to my house, or her parents' house. I opened up with a crowbar these things and filled my room with books and just started devouring dictionaries and books 18 to 24 hours a day. I mean, it was just nonstop. And I'd go to class and I'd read. And I started to grow my vocabulary 30 words a day, which is 20,000 words in 2 years. And I ended up excelling and then becoming faster and faster in reading. And I never stopped reading. And so reading became my life. I mean, I used to read 18 books a weekend, 4 to 7 books a day on average. One time I read 11,000 pages in one day just to see what I was capable of doing, preparing for an oncology presentation I was doing. So reading to me is like a way of standing on the shoulders of giants and not having to reinvent the wheel and learn from the great masters. And you can't put your hand in the pot of glue without some of the glue sticking. So too, you can't put your mind into the great works by the great masters without awakening inside you a yearning to want to master your life. So reading means a lot to me.
I love that. And I've always grown up with sort of the negative aspect of that. If you hang around people or situations that aren't going to serve you, a bit of that is going to stick. But I love the positive spin that you just put on that. It makes things seem so much lighter and obviously more positive. But you've got this sense of determination that is unwavering, this sense of curiosity that is unwavering. And for me, that is someone that is clearly on their purpose path and is doing the work that they were born to do in this lifetime. It brings me to this quote that I absolutely love by an author called James Michener. I'm going to read it to you because this is you in my mind. I envision you. The master in the art of living makes little distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his information and his recreation, his love and his religion. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence at whatever he does, leaving others to decide whether he is working or playing. To him, he's always doing both. I absolutely love that quote.
I would love for you to send me that. I'd like to put that in my mission book. I have not heard that, so thank you. That means a lot to me to hear that.
I will absolutely send you that. But you, as I said, are living and breathing your purpose. And I feel like that endless curiosity and determination stems from people who are living that. Is there a secret to finding our purpose? I know, like, you've shared wonderful stories so far, and you've almost followed breadcrumbs of what have been left for you, people that you've met who have shared their wisdom and imparted it to you, and books that you've read that you've gone on to teach. So by following these breadcrumbs, you've been led to your purpose. Tell us about how others can perhaps find that endless sense of curiosity within them and live more purposefully.
Most people can conceive of moments in their life or recall moments in their life where they have tears of inspiration, tears of gratitude, a tear of aha. When the beta waves of day of the sympathetic nervous system and the delta waves at night of the parasympathetic nervous system come into perfect equilibrium between 13 cycles per second during the day and 3 cycles together at night, you get a centerpiece about 8 cycles per second, which is an alpha theta wave. In that state, a gamma burst occurs, a gamma wave occurs in the brain, which synchronizes the brain and brings a eureka, aha, tear of gratitude moment, confirming that you're now authentic. See, if we exaggerate ourselves to somebody, look down on them and exaggerate ourselves, it's because they challenge us, and that activates sympathetic. If we minimize ourselves we put them on a pedestal and they support us, we minimize ourselves, that's parasympathetic. But if we actually are ourselves and not minimizing or exaggerating ourselves, but are being ourselves, the autonomics come into perfect equilibrium. There's a synchronicity between the hypothalamus, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, all parts of the brain, and a 60 cycle second to 40 cycle second occurs, hertz, and all of a sudden synchronicity occurs, and aha, and we get a glimpse, and we get inspired vision, an executive center function, and we get a clarity. So anybody who can document the moments they have inspiration. I went back through all of the music in my life. Anywhere where I had tears of inspiration watching music. Anywhere where I had tears of inspiration watching a movie. Anywhere I had tears of inspiration learning or reading. I captured those moments and look at what was common to those moments. What was the content of my mind in the moment of those inspirations? And I compiled that. And it is astonishing because it's moments of clarity, moments of authenticity, and moments of missionfulness that occur in those moments. It just happens that whatever's highest on your list of priorities and values in life, whenever you're living by the highest priority and delegating the rest down and doing what you spontaneously are inspired to do, that you love doing, which is an absolutely fulfilling thing that nobody has to remind you to do, it just happens to match those moments of inspiration. So those are like confirmations of clarity, but living by priority and delegating lower priority things and not doing desperate things, but doing the highest, most inspiring, spontaneous things you love doing, awakens an incremental momentum building awareness of the magnificence of what your mission is. So everybody has a mission, but they sometimes subordinate to outer authorities, inject the values of others, cloud the clarity of their own mission, which is their own highest value, and live on derivative values instead of non-derivative intrinsic value. And they basically hold themselves back from the clarity of what that mission is. But it's inside everyone. In my Breakthrough Experience program, which I've been teaching 1,152 times, I have shared that on how to do that with thousands of people. And it's a science. It's a reproducible science. If you also look at all the people that have inspired you, that brought tears to your eyes, that you were sitting mesmerized by, you'll see that there's a common thread to it. There's a common pathway and thread that's revealing, and it's based on your values. And this can evolve over different stages of your life. But keeping current with what it is the key of a mastered and inspired and fulfilling and, in a sense, spontaneously awakened life.
Oh, that's such a good tip, is writing down the things that inspire you and that have in the past. My daughter is nearly 13 and she says, Mom, I don't really know what it is that is my thing yet. And I resonate with that. For me, it was always like, I liked talking, and that was the thing that I liked to do. That was my hobby, was talking, having deep conversations. And if I had have been more aware of that back then, it would have led me to where I am a bit quicker today, this is what I do for a living now. I love drawing and sharing this key information from people like yourself and sharing it with the world. It feels so fulfilling to do that, to share and impart wisdom from others and through myself on platforms. So I love that. But life does throw you distractions, obviously. What are some of the biggest objections that people come with when you tell them that in your Breakthrough Experience courses? What are some of the things that, John, I've got kids. I can't just do this all the time and work 100% of the time. I've got X, I've got Y. What are some of your biggest objections and how do we overcome them?
Can I share a story to help answer that?
Yes, please.
I was doing the Breakthrough Experience, which is one of my signature programs. And it was a second day of the program, and we were now focusing on the mission. And what do you want to dedicate your life to? How do you want to see it? Because if you don't fill your day with how you would love it to be, it fills up with how you don't. If you don't fill your life with a design, it fills up with duty. And I asked her, she asked me, I don't know what my mission is. I don't know what to write. I said, what do you do every single day that nobody has to remind you to do, that you spontaneously and intrinsically are driven to do, that you love doing, that inspires you? I don't know. And I said, stop, answer my question. What do you do every single day that you're spontaneously inspired to do? She finally, after ranting, said, I love being with my kids. I said, fantastic. So do you fill your space with your kids? They're with me all day. Do you spend your time with your kids? Yes. Do they energize you? Yes. Watching them grow inspires me. When you get money, does it go towards managing and helping and grow the kids? Yes. Is that where you have the most order and organization, your agenda with your kids? Yes. Is that where you're most disciplined and always reliable to be there for the kids? Yes. Do you think about, visualize, and internally talk to yourself about your life and these kids and what you want for them? Yes. And do you, when you get in conversation with people, what do you bring the conversation to? Is it about your kids? Yep. I said, in all the goals that you've had in your life, has it been mostly about your kids and growing a beautiful family and kids? He goes, and when you've read books, has most of the books been around kids? She goes, you got me. You've nailed me. I said, the only reason why you aren't clear about your mission is you're comparing your life to somebody else that you're infatuated with and admiring and minimizing yourself to them and thinking because you put them on a pedestal that they're something greater than you. So who is that? She stopped and she said, yeah, there's a woman that has got a big business and she's got 2 kids. She's got people to help her with it, but she raised 2 kids and I'm always beating myself up because I'm not doing a business. I said, but your heart's into your kids. She goes, it is. I said, so you keep having things that take you away from doing something with business and go back to your kids? She goes, that's me. I said, and is there anybody else? She says, yeah, there's another lady that's got a social function and she's got a charity function and she's very dedicated to that. And she also has kids. And so I think I should be doing that. I said, anytime you hear yourself saying, I should, I ought to, I'm supposed to, I got to, I have to, I must, or I need to, those are imperative languages that are injunctions from outside authorities that you've inculcated into your life that cloud the clarity of what's really a calling. Your life demonstrates what you value. Your life demonstrates your mission. Your mission revolves around kids. And she looked at me and she said, is that good enough? And I said, let me say something. I have a book in my possession that came from the Kennedy family that had Rose Kennedy's actual mission statement written in it, handwritten. And it said that I dedicate my life to raising a family of world leaders. She was a mother, just like you. And she started bawling. She just started crying. She said, that's all I've ever wanted to do. Thank you. She hugged me. I said, your mission is to be a magnificent mom, raising beautiful kids, doing something extraordinary with their lives. She said that I now have permission to do that. Thank you so much. I've been comparing myself. I said, we're not here to compare ourselves to other people. We're here to compare our daily action to what we value most and to live authentically and congruently according to that. Not here to compare ourselves to others and put people on pedestals or pits. We're here to put reflectively them in our heart so we can live an equanimous life, inspired by what we would love to do, which is beautiful kids. She then sat down and just poured out with automatic writing a mission statement of what she wanted to accomplish. She knew inside, everyone knows inside what their calling is, but they've got the facades that they're putting in front of themselves because of the comparison of other people that they put above or below them instead of put them in their heart. And it's returning to love that reawakens the calling of clarity. And so, yeah, it's in all of us. There's no mystery to it. It's just giving yourself permission to be yourself and not be second at being somebody else and not living in the shadows of others.
A very, very good message. I always say comparison is the thief of joy. It's when we compare ourselves, that's when all of the joy and the love and the that inspiration just disappears, because when we're not being authentic to who we truly are, then everything feels hard, everything feels difficult. And I remember on The Secret, I've watched that film many times and been inspired by all of those amazing thought leaders, the OGs, the original thought leaders. That the thing that you said on The Secret was about the voice and vision inside is louder than the opinions on the outside. And when you realize that, that's when you begin to master your life. And, that was, how many years ago was that filmed?
2006 or 7, I believe.
Yeah, amazing. And still such a relevant message that we hear today. Taking a quick minute to interrupt this conversation to let you know about something exciting I am growing. As you might know, I'm incredibly passionate about helping people to find and share their voice, especially if their voice is one that aims to create positive change in others. And I've launched a podcast network with purpose. It's called the Guide Your Light Network, that features podcasts and voices that inspire, educate, and transform listeners. And we have a library of podcasts that are part of our network that truly embody that mission, and we're looking for more. If this has sparked interest in you and you are ready to start exploring speaking and using your voice in this way, I'd love for you to check it out. Also, if you have something important to say and you don't know where to start to bring that to life, we can also help you to craft your authentic message through our Guide Your Light online sessions to help you get super clear on your intention, messaging, and structure needed to launch a podcast of your own that is authentically you. Just head over to guideyourlightnetwork.com. Why do you do this work, John? What's fueling you? What is it that wakes you up every morning?
When I was 18 and I went back to school and started to build momentum reading, I was in a library and a 375-pound Afro-American woman came up to me and asked me if I could teach her yoga. I was doing yoga then. No one was doing yoga in the school hardly back 1973. There wasn't a very common thing. And she wanted to learn from me. No one in my life ever wanted to learn from me. And so I took her on. Now, she was 375 pounds, and doing yoga at 375 pounds is a bit interesting, but she was a lovely being. Shortly after that, I was outside meditating in the sun, and this Persian man came up to me, and he came and sat real quiet next to me. And when I came out of my meditation, he said, "Can you teach me that?" So he was my second student. He's still with me, 50 years now. And then a whole class came out and surrounded me in a round library table in our library and asked me to tutor them on mathematics, because I was learning mathematics pretty quick. And the inspiration of the feedback I got from people that I could make a difference in a way I never thought was going to happen, was so meaningful to me. It was just absolutely meaningful. And today, receiving thousands of letters of people's lives that are getting impacted, thousands, that when I read those, I get tears in my eyes. And I think that, fulfillment in life is a combination of finding it as service, your calling in life, and being of service, and also honoring that you also are rewarded. And to me, that's fulfillment. And we have a sensory and a motor side to our brain. The sensory is for receiving rewards, but the motor is for service. The serve-deserve equation. And when those are in perfect equilibrium and you have sustainable fair exchange and equanimity within you and equity between you and other people, there's a tier of inspiration that will come. And that fuels me on a daily basis. And so I have no issue. I don't need any outside motivation to do what I do. In fact, I've told people, if you can find somebody that's ever had to motivate me to research, write, and teach, for the last 50 years, you got free seminars. No one's found it. Because I don't need external motivation. I always say motivation is a symptom, never a solution for human beings. External motivation. So many people living with false attribution biases and requiring extrinsic motivations to compensate for false causalities, instead of digging inside and realizing that the perception, decisions, and actions you take is self-driven. It's self-governed if you're intrinsic. And it doesn't matter what happens outside. You can take anything that happened on the outside and make a heaven or a hell out of it, like Milton said, and turn it into something on the way, not in the way, and fuel an appreciation for the magnificence of life and your life and this contribution to the world. And so I try to teach people how to be resourceful and to be grateful for the magnificent life that they have. And some people will start out running and ranting about how this has happened and this happened. I've yet to find anything the mortal body can experience that the mortal soul can't love. I have yet to find anything that somebody's been through that can't be turned into a fuel of opportunity. So when I hear people say those, they're inspiring, because I get to turn those into new opportunities. I get to cognitively reappraise them and spin them in a new way where they see them and they're just in tears. And they realize, wow. I had a gentleman who was hijacked on a highway with 4 cars surrounding him, hijacked, busted the window at gunpoint, taken, put a thing over his head, put in a back trunk of a car, drive 5 to 6 hours to the middle of nowhere, and held for a ransom for millions of dollars. And he was in shock and post-traumatic stress and everything else when I got to talk to him. In 2 hours and 15 minutes, he was in tears of gratitude. And you think, well, how can that happen? Because what had happened was he was running a major company, but he was doing it all. And he's working super hard. He was affecting his health, and he was having hypertension. He wasn't with his family. He wasn't with his kid. He didn't know what to do. His wife was frustrated because he wasn't there. They were growing up. He didn't know them, but he was so driven on the business. And when he had those few weeks, because it was 3 weeks before he was able to get the ransom, those 3 weeks, everybody in the company took over. All the people he wanted to delegate to rose to the occasion, took over the job position, and they made more income while he was there than he'd ever made in the company, and more than the ransom. That's how amazing it was. When he came back, he was now, they were running the company. He had time for his family. It was time with his kids. He lost weight. He got himself in shape, started exercise, started eating differently, changed his life. And when I got through with this thing and helping him see this, he was in tears, and he just wanted to thank the people for doing that, because he couldn't have paid a consultant to be able to get that much of a transformation, to solve all the problems that was unconsciously hurting inside. And everything was now manifested. And he says, I can't believe that I was bitter and angry and resentful. And now 2 hours and 15 minutes later, I'm grateful. And I just want to hug my wife and thank these people, because I had an unconscious motive to try to solve those things. And the world works in mysterious ways, and I didn't see it.
What a gift you've got for people to be able to see that. And delegation, such an important word, and something that I'm only starting to implement into my business now. And because I've always been, I can just do it myself. It's easier to just do it myself. And then you get bogged down and you get completely overwhelmed. But when you do hand out those tasks that can be done by other people, for example, the hairdresser who starts her own business, builds a salon, and then ends up not doing hair anymore because she's running the business and managing staff and doing taxes. They're the things that aren't going to light that hairdresser up. So it's so, so important for anyone listening today who's got some important passion and skill inside of them that the world is going to benefit for. Focus on that thing, not all the other tiny little things around it that aren't going to bring you joy or aren't going to bring you closer to that purpose.
I research, I write, I teach, I travel. Everything else is delegated. I haven't cooked since I was 24. I haven't driven a car in 32 years. I have my own captain, pilot, concierge. Everything is delegated. I don't have anything to do except teach, research, and write, and travel the world, sitting here doing what I love doing, reaching people through electronic mediums, or going live to programs occasionally.
Right. So this is focused.
Delegation is an absolutely essential thing. You are not going to live an inspired life doing low priority, desperate things. You're only going to do it when you liberate yourself and delegate and give job opportunities and help the economy by finding out the people who would absolutely, in the top of their values, love and be inspired to do what you want to delegate. So they're greater at it. So there's no micromanaging and motivation involved. They're intrinsically driven to do what you want to delegate and freed.
It's amazing. You live an extraordinary life, that's for sure. What would you say to little John back as that teenager today, if you could sit him down and let him know that, one day things are going to turn around? What would you say to little John?
I would say that, you're right on track. Thank you. Keep going. There's no mistakes. Everything is on the way, not in the way. Fantastic. I wouldn't change a thing. There's nothing to change. Anything you can't say thank you for in life is baggage. Anything you can say thank you for is fuel. If you have a regret, that means you compared the actions you did to somebody else's values. You don't judge yourself in your own values when you're authentic. You're grateful for yourself because you're living efficiently and effectively without even realizing it. But we don't realize it because we compare our actions to other people's values. Just like we think other people make mistakes when we compare their actions to our values. Anytime we say you should have done that, that's because we're projecting our values onto them, and they don't live in our values. They live in their values. And when we think we should have done something different, it's because we're trying to live in somebody else's values. No, I just say you're on track. Keep going.
Values are important, aren't they? You talk about them all the time. They're the set of priorities that you live your life by, and not enough of us get clear on that, do we?
No, I started studying values at age 23 and read everything I could get my hands on that, because I realized that was the key to driving what drives a human being intrinsically. But I found out that majority of people don't know what they value. They are so inculcated with the values of the herd and the common collective heroism that they've subordinated to, that they've lost sight of it. And they're trapped in tradition, convention, and idealisms and social ideologies about how life should be, with moral hypocrisies, instead of how it is. And that's why I on my website, I tell people to go to the website, drdemartini.com, and go on and do the value determination process. It's free, it's complimentary, it's private. It'll take you about 30 minutes of your time. Answer the questions. There's only 13 questions, as honestly as you possibly can. Maybe come back and do it again a week later and make sure you're honest. And it will print out and reveal to you what you really value by what your life demonstrates. Because I ask people, how many of you want to be financially independent? Everybody puts their hands, two hands, even their foot in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, how many are? And all the hands go down, less than 1%. How can 100% of the people say they want to be financially independent, but only 1% obtain it? The reason being is because what they really want is the lifestyle of the rich and famous, spending money on consumables that depreciate in value, not buying assets that grow in value, where it's now passively earning them income with deferred gratification long term. And they don't realize that what they want is lifestyle, which means spending it. And therefore they can't get ahead.
Mm.
So most people don't know what their life's really demonstrating is important to them. I've done the value determination process on a lot of people. I found one that was purely congruent. Most people are a little hazy.
Okay. Well, I'll be putting that link in the show notes so everyone can jump on and try it for themselves. Your website is actually full of incredible tools and free resources. It's just a library of information that you share, and it's so generous. That's the word I'm looking for. You're so generous with the information that's in your heart and in your head, and you really stand out.
You're gonna, whether you have whatever your faith or religion or spiritual or existential belief systems are, you're going to almost have to believe in some sort of Eastern mysticism, a Buddhist or Hindu or something like that. I believe in a reincarnation just to be able to read what's on my website. It's going to take you more than one life.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been going through it in preparation for our chat today, already knowing your work, but still learning so much through going through that. I thank you so much for your time today. You're just, a wealth of knowledge. You call yourself a polymath, and I actually had to look that up. A person of wide knowledge or learning, and you probably call yourself a student of life as well. You're always learning, you're always teaching, and it's wonderful. My final question today, what are you currently reading at the moment?
Well, this morning, it varies every day. I'm summarizing a book on the relationship between quantum physics, light and optics, and potential intelligence, both human intelligence and artificial intelligence. So I'm working on that. This morning, I had a discussion with a Yale professor and a man from Tokyo who's a very esteemed professor there. And we were talking on this topic. We've been having discussions in the mornings on that. And we'll do it again at 7 this morning. And so I'm working on that text. And also, I just finished another text that I wrote on nuclear physics. I'm fascinated by nuclear energy and nuclear physics and its relationship to, believe it or not, consciousness. I'm a believer that consciousness is not just an emergence of, biomolecular functions in the brain. It's more scaled than that. And I'm very fascinated by that. I'm not talking about anthropomorphizing consciousness and human forms, but I believe all the way down through the scales, there's signs of quantum events that would be, in some respects, considered a decision. I talked to Freeman Dyson at the Institute of Advanced Studies at Princeton before he passed away, and we had discussions on 3 occasions to talk about this field. He was a biologist and astrophysicist who took over Albert Einstein's position at Princeton in 1955 when Einstein passed. And we had some incredible conversation in this field, and I'm still pursuing that because I believe I believe we live in a really magnificent, intelligent universe. It's not exactly the models of anthropic principle that most cosmologists are familiar with, but it's my own cosmological construct that's trying to tie and weave together thermodynamics, physics, optics, and particle physics, quantum theory, and consciousness. And some people think it's crazy, and I love it. And the ones that thought all my ideas have been crazy later found out maybe it wasn't. There was a gentleman named William James Sidis, not William James, the psychologist, but William James Sidis, who was a 275 IQ, was considered the brightest young man. At 12, a teenager, he was professor at Rice University, also at Cambridge and Harvard, both. All of those he was a professor at when he was a teenager. And he had an incredible capacity, spoke 25 languages. It was an amazing person. He wrote a book in 1920 called The Animate and the Inanimate. And he was ahead of his times. He was talking about the arrow of time being both directions, past and future simultaneously, similar to Einstein and now quantum theorists. And he was talking about this back in the 1920s in a way that was profound on what is the origin of biological negentropy, the tendency towards life expression. And so I've been devouring those fields for a long time, putting writings into that area.
Oh,
That's
I
what
can't
I'm
wait
working
to learn more about that myself. It sounds absolutely fascinating. I'm almost mystified about when you actually get sleep too, because it's about 2 a.m. now and you have another meeting at 7 a.m. So how many hours sleep do you average on a night?
For 35 years, I did 4 hours. Today, more, normally more, but many days I don't have, I've got too many things I want to do.
Yeah.
So I try to delegate. I delegate the sleep to all the rest of the people that want to sleep more.
One thing you can't delegate is your own sleep. And what's the
No,
first?
I do sleep. I do sleep more now than before, because for some reason when you're, getting close to 70, it seems like you wake up in the middle of the night sometimes and relieve your bladder a little bit more.
Yeah.
So now I get woken up and sometimes I lose 10 or 15 minutes going back to sleep. But that's just, part of the nature of the I guess you could say the chronography, if you will, of my life.
I love that.
But yeah, for 4 hours for 35 years, I did that for a long time.
Amazing. And what's the first thing you do when you do wake up?
Well, I have a series of statements that go through my mind that, that I've been saying for a long time. And the first one is still, I'm a genius and I apply my wisdom, because that was the one he gave me when I was 17 and 18, right at the verge of 18. And that pops out of my head. And I think I've said that every single day, multiple times a day for 50 years. But I also say that I'm a master of persistence. I do whatever it takes, that I have a photographic, autographic mind. Whatever I read or retain. And I have a series of things of, that how I want my life to be. And I just run through those. And I don't usually like to get out of bed until I get my tear of gratitude. And then I know I'm having a moment of authenticity and a moment of gratitude. The executive center in the brain, the medial prefrontal cortex, is also the gratitude center. It's where there's most objectivity. And objectivity means neutral, not biased and subjectively part thinking. It's whole. And that holistic state is the place I like to start the morning with. And if I do that, I feel that it automatically rekindles the fuel, even if I didn't get much sleep.
Love that. Hot showers or cold showers?
Well, it depends on whether my girlfriend's here or not. My wife passed away a number of years back, and I've got a lovely girlfriend, and she's sometimes here and sometimes she's in another country because she's a very known figure, busy schedule. So we rendezvous sometimes on the ship.
So when she's there, there's the warm showers. When she's not there, there's the cold showers.
A little bit more like that. Yeah, let's just have some fun with that one.
I love that.
I had a joke because I love delegating. I went to my girlfriend. I said, "Look, if I could have Hugh Jackman, Brad Pitt, Gerard Butler, George Clooney, Viggo Mortensen, or something like that, if I could have them make love with you on my behalf, would you still love me?" And they say, or she says, "I would love you even more."
Oh, that's hilarious. I love ending this chat on a cheeky
joke,
note.
though.
That's a cheeky note.
That's a cheeky note joke.
Good to see you.
I'm not delegating that one.
No, you keep that one to yourself. I'm sure that's much more enjoyable. Thank you so much for your time today. Absolutely enjoyed every second of it. And I hope you go out there and live that extraordinary life of yours to the fullest.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for this lovely interview. Thank you for your presence and helping me help other people and getting to share my message. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the show. What did you think? And what did you feel? Let us know by leaving me a message on the Things You Can't Unhear Instagram community page. And if you can, give us some ratings love on your favorite listening platform.